No, it was just getting back to, for me, just getting back to the basics. I said just playing football the right way. For us, just going out and executing. As I know I've mentioned that a lot, and that's what it looks like when our guys do it the right way. Just eliminating negative plays offensively, putting together a solid drive, moving the football, and finishing with points. That's something that we've been harping on, something we have to do better, and we were able to do that yesterday. And I'm pleased with the outing that our guys had, and I thought they did a really good job there.
Hell yeah. Nothing makes me want to run through a brick wall more than hearing Texans head coach D'Amico Ryans talking about how his Houston Texans got back to basics in a meaningless Week 18 game on Sunday.
That's not how I thought you were going to start the show.
No, I'm pumped. I'm back.
I thought we were going to be so pumped. I thought we were getting a Texan swarm to start the show.
I felt it. I felt it in my bones.
I felt the swarm coming.
I don't know I could quite go all the way to a swarm without several deep steel blue pills because the Texans are still dead to me.
Fair.
They're turning their focus ahead to Saturday's game against the Los Angeles Chargers. 3:30 kickoff. Chargers 2.5-point favorites. MyBookie.ag. Promo code BET975. I feel like the entire city, when it comes to this team, is looking at them the same way that prison guard P Pants from the Green Mile looked at big old Michael Douglas. What's his last name? Michael Clark Duncan, my bad. As he is being led into the prison in that famous Tom Hanks movie from the late 90s, early 2000s.
Man walking. Dead man. Dead man walking. Dead man walking here. Dead man. We got a dead man walking here. Dead man walking. We got a dead man walking here.
For a safety. It's enough.
Tom Hanks steps in. That's enough. But I mean, that's what I feel like most sports talk in this city that involves the Houston Texans will be over the next 4 days. I feel like just about every person who follows this team believes they are dead men walking against a Chargers team that puts the CH in choke. And I'm asking the question to open up the show at 713-780-3776. Is it fair to operate like they're dead men walking for a home playoff game in a round where they actually have more success than you'd think?
And like I said, the Chargers don't. The Chargers don't have that playoff success. Is it fair? Yes, it's totally fair. It's not just fair, it's deserved. The way they've played this year. I mean, they don't get the benefit of the doubt that the Houston Astros got for us in the playoffs. They don't get a dust busting on Friday, Paul. No dust busters on Friday. Veto, if that's even in your thought process.
No, it's not.
I know it's not.
It's not. Even though the Chargers actually lost a game where Trevor Lawrence threw 4 interceptions in the first quarter, not that long ago. That was under Brandon Staley, not Jim Harbaugh. I am looking at this team like men who are doomed for a future execution. And I think it's fair to look at it that way, but I want people to get me out of this mindset. I mean, I'm still dealing with the anger and rage of having watched this team in person on Christmas. Somebody responded to me when I posted that rant from yesterday's show saying, get over it. No, I will never get over it. That is my January 6th. Some of you can't get over that. I will never get over that. I'll be 80 years old, riddled with dementia,
and just be rambling about the Texans
right.
losing on Christmas.
Right. Just like that meme. All right, Grandpa, let's get you to bed. Hopefully someone will give me some really nice drugs at the nursing home that I'll be abandoned at when my family forgets about me. Wow, Paul, they're so dark. Well, yes, that's the state of mind they put me in. I want someone to pull me out. Okay? I want someone to make me see the true meaning of Houston Texans football. I want somebody to make me wake up on Christmas Day like I'm Ebenezer Scrooge all of a sudden, trotting around, skipping around town, giving money to the homeless, alms to the poor. I want someone to shake me out of this because they are dead men walking.
I mean, look, they're back to basics though, Paul. Back to basics. They no negative plays.
Well, there was the delay of game in the red zone. Two
Turn
Laramie Tunsil false starts.
turn drives into points. The one with CJ Stroud, they scored a touchdown. Like they're back to basics. They're back to the Texans way after this game this last weekend. That's what I heard from D'Amico.
Football is football, and
Football. I forgot about
Bobby
football.
Slowick.
Football.
I mean, there's been lots of great quotes over the course of the year, and I mean, listen, I've got coach envy. Okay, thou shalt not covet another man's coach. Okay, well, I would like Jim Harbaugh because I feel like Jim Harbaugh would motivate me, and I do kind of get this general sense that not only are the Houston Texans dead men walking, I get the sense that they feel like a lot of things were fixed in Sunday's one series of action on offense. And honestly, I think there's a case to be made that they could have played a little bit longer, even though it might have risked injury.
No, I think that's totally fair. With how bad the season's gone, the lack of ability to score points in the second half, to put back-to-back drives of touchdowns together throughout the season. I mean, I couldn't even tell you if I was just going to guess, Paul. I bet you maybe 3 times this entire year they scored touchdowns on back-to-back drives. Like I'm just guessing, but it feels that way. We're like they just haven't had consistent success this year. I wish there was something I could tell people and tell you that would just say the Texans are going to fix everything. But I've got a lot of bad takes, and this isn't one I want to have. I don't want to be the guy that's super pro Texans going into this game. I do think we are overvaluing the Chargers a little bit in the way that the national media is talking about them. I mean, this is a team that their defense has been really good this year. Their offense hasn't been, excellent. Justin Herbert's been pretty good.
Oh yeah, just signed Ezekiel Elliott. Boom.
Boom.
Watch out.
Problem solved. J.K. Dobbins and Zeke Elliott coming to ruin the Texans Saturday this weekend. What a combo. This is like the 2013 Madden cover. It'd be incredible to have. Maybe 2015. But it just, there's nothing that the Texans did this weekend that make me feel more of an optimist, because like you, I can't get Christmas Day out of my mind. I do think
At least you didn't go.
that's a great point.
If I hadn't gone, I think I could talk myself into it. I could give a speech on Friday. I'd bring in the jacket. I'd bring the helmet.
I think
I could do it.
I feel like it still might make an appearance.
If someone in the organization bribes me, I will do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Listen, I'm a radio host.
Yeah, we'll take.
I am not above a bribe.
Hey, we'll take whatever you want.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just I don't know, like a free week of Chick-fil-A. That might be enough for me.
That sounds good.
People are not helping us out here on the text line from the 409. Are the Houston Texans dead men walking is the question I asked. CJ is soft as wet puppy poo now, so we don't stand a chance. Soft as wet puppy poo.
I don't agree with that. I think he's played poor this year. I don't think he's soft. I know I feel like that's the word soft is being thrown around since the Tank injury happened.
Right. Listen.
Yeah, I think that's unfair to
Billy
call
Bob
CJ
cried
soft.
because he's a bit of a crier. Crying happens in football. Okay?
Jared cried.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't even like the fact that people are trying to bring up the fact that CJ never beat Jim Harbaugh in college.
Well, this is a good point, though.
I don't think it is.
I think honestly, Harbaugh's going to be slightly more familiar with CJ Stroud than most head coaches that are in their first year back in the NFL.
Yeah, but look what's happened to Ohio State since. I mean, they lost to Michigan this year, and they're a dumpster fire. Michigan was most of the season, so I don't like that personally. And even the fact that last time Jim Harbaugh was at NRG Stadium and won the national championship, I don't care. I think that stuff is pretty irrelevant, honestly.
He's one of the greatest coaches in football history.
That I agree with. I think the coaching matchup is clear. I just don't think what happened in college with Jim Harbaugh and connecting it to CJ Stroud is really correlated for this matchup. I just think
I get it.
That part directly is not.
But it's another factor to add in, and
for sure,
it adds to the bad vibes for sure.
It does.
From the 281, Texans are much more who they were against Baltimore than who they were against Tennessee.
I mean, CJ only played one snap, so yes.
That was the worst possible outing for the Texans. I think they are closer to Tennessee than they are to Baltimore. They played like absolute ass in that game, but I think that the game against the Chiefs that they played, where they lost, it was close for a while, but ultimately the Chiefs outclassed them in the fourth quarter. I think that's more where this team is. I'm mad about Christmas Day, but I don't think that they are bad because of that game. I just think that they are above average, slightly above mediocre.
Yeah, the Ravens beat the Texans worse than they beat the Browns this week. Like, I don't think the Texans are actually that bad.
No.
Right.
It was just a very, very bad day. I agree with you that they are close to the Chiefs. But when you say the Titans game, which Titans game is more them? The win in which CJ played one series or the game in which they lost 32 to 27?
It can be that team from time to time.
And see, I think it's really, I would say it's closer to this game because I don't expect the defense to get torched like that. I mean, they got embarrassed by Will Levis in that game when they lost 32 to 27. I think you're right. Like they're closer to who they were the Chiefs game, where the Packers game, the Lions game, where they're competitive in these games. Yes. Are they clutch? No. Are they going to overcome the final drive this year against a really good team? I think the answer to that is no. They're not as bad as they were on Christmas. It just leaves the ultimate sour taste that unless you win this weekend, we're going to be dealing with that sour taste the entire offseason.
This is sour taste. Ginger usually works to cleanse the palate. At least that's what I'm told. It's with the sushi that you can get at HEB. So grocery store sushi is pretty damn good. From the 409, a lot of 409ers today. Oh, this is just mean, but it's accurate. Tyler and Conroe. Paul, you're like 40 with no wife or kids. You won't have a family to abandon you in a nursing home. Hey, I'm 35.
Tyler, that's mean.
I'm 35. Okay. Yeah. Really, that's the only part I take issue with. I mean, the rest of it is actually accurate.
I mean, yeah, but like Bill Belichick, like he's getting, he's going to get hitched at some point.
Why? You think I'm going to be at age 70 marrying someone who's 25?
Like Al Pacino's like 89 having kids with like 20-year-olds. So like,
what's the difference between Al Pacino, Bill Belichick, and Paul Gallant?
Nothing.
Lots of success.
Hey, your success would still be in front of you.
Other than that, I mean, I'm taller than Al Pacino, so that's cool.
That's true.
From the 409, Texans versus Chargers, yah. Who are we taking in the draft after this first round exit? Oh God, no, we're not doing draft talk. Here's one, finally, from the 903. Texans are going to swarm the Chargers. No reason as to why, but finally, some positive vibes because we all think this team is dead man walking.
They're going to swarm. I mean, look, the Texans have a chance this weekend. They do. The Chargers are not an explosive team. The best matchup this weekend might be the two Georgia rookies, McConkey versus Kamari Lassiter. Honestly, this is a very competitive game in terms of like stylistic fight. Like if this is a boxing match, like you would be saying, like this is a really good matchup that we're going to see in the ring. These teams are very similar to each other. It just really feels like the Chargers have the big leg up in coaching. And that's really nothing against D'Amico Ryans. It's just what Harbaugh has accomplished at every level, any school, any program in the NFL he's been with. It puts them above the rest. And then their quarterback is definitely better right now. But we've seen what CJ can do in the playoffs, like what he did against Cleveland. Now, Cleveland was a dumpster fire, but at one point, that was one of the best defenses in the NFL.
Cleveland's defense going into that game was good, and they did that without Tank Dell. I mean, that was Nico Collins. They did have Brevin Jordan for what it's worth, and he did have that big catch and run. I don't know why all the Browns players ran out of bounds in pursuit on that play. From B. Hannon on Twitch at ESPN 975, Texans have a more talented roster. Chargers the better coach and quarterback. I do think the gap between Herbert and Stroud right now is slight, but Herbert does have the upper hand because Herbert's not turning the football over, and Stroud is.
Yeah, and Stroud's making throws this year that are super. Well, I guess we can't say super uncharacteristic because it's such a short sample size of his career in the NFL. But they're very different, this year than what we saw at the beginning of the season, and then what we saw last year as well. So yeah, Herbert's not going to make those huge mistakes. It seems like with Harbaugh as his coach because they kind of limit him. Like they really are running a more simplistic version of like their offense, like where Justin's not going to make the huge mistakes, but he's got a super powerful arm. He's a really talented quarterback. There's a reason why we all thought he was a top 5 QB for a while. And then like the production fell off with Staley there and people bumped him down finally. But yeah, they have the better quarterback in this game. I'm not picking the Texans, but I think this game's going to be like, I don't think it's going to be a blowout this weekend.
Well, yeah,
that would shock me.
I think a lot of people are saying it's going to be a blowout. I think they're wrong.
Yeah.
But I also feel like they're a dead man walking. Like I just think what they have not been able to do this year, the biggest of those things, be consistent, even for a game. That is why everyone is holding up. Because going into this year, you thought that they could get to another level, and what they have shown this year is no. This is exactly what they are. I'm not about to help you out with any more hype for the Houston Texans. Let's just dive right into a couple of not deep steel blue pills. Sorry, I got none. I looked. I really looked. I'm trying to figure out a way to be like the happy little Zoloft guy. You seen that commercial?
Yeah.
It's an old commercial. The Zoloft is this antidepressant commercial. And there's this little blob, and he's like walking around downtown, and
Yeah, I
it
remember that.
rains on him. And then he takes the pill, and then he's like hopping around. It's like the little blob's kind of cute. I wouldn't mind it as a pet. But anyway, I'm not giving you that. I'm giving you the opposite of that. It's time for a battle red pill because everyone is dumping on the Texans right now. First, I'm just going to give you a depressing Houston Texans stat. Derek Barnett has more touchdowns than Robert Woods, John Mechie, and Xavier Hutchinson combined. Again, these are like your 4, 5, 6 wide receivers. He is tied with Dalton Schultz, though, in touchdowns because he has 2.
Yikes.
After yesterday's fumble return for a touchdown.
I got a depressing stat for you. The Texans are 1-6 in their last 7 games with CJ Stroud under center against a winning team and have been outscored 196 to 106 in those contests.
Okay, that's bad.
That's really depressing.
31-2 definitely made that a lot bigger of a margin, but it was still a pretty big margin before that.
Yeah, it was still a 60-point margin before that.
Oh, man.
I didn't realize they were 1-6 in their last. So the only game they won is against Buffalo.
Mm-hmm. Listen, for what it's worth, though, the Texans they've won 5 times in the wild card round. They've won 5 times in that 5:30 on a Saturday window. They have won significantly more often than they have lost. I believe they are 5-2 wild card weekend. Huh? That was a bit of a deep steel blue pill for you.
I mean, look. So history tells you the Texans, they're going to win this weekend.
They're good in the first round for what it's worth. I mean, that's not good enough for anybody.
I mean, look, like you said, you referenced it in the first, as we were talking here. If CJ Stroud throws 4 picks in the first half, I'm putting my money on the Texans in the second half.
Yeah, you're still in it.
History repeats itself like it did with Trevor Lawrence and the Jags.
I will say, washed up Joe Flacco not walking through that door. Connor Cook not walking through that door. Andy Dalton not walking through that door. There's been a lot of good draws for the Texans in those early matchup. Now, for some of those, they also had quarterback issues of their own. So, you know what? I'm willing to give it to them. They are wild card round. I don't want to say champions because they have lost twice, but they're wild card round veterans.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why they kick off. They
know how to win in the first game of the playoffs.
It's just ingrained in the franchise.
Mm-hmm.
3:30.
They look
Saturday
up,
wild card round. That's our time.
They see all those AFC South banners from the 2010s, and they're like, you know what? If they could do it, we can do it.
Yeah.
They're trying to make Christmas Day a tradition, but no, this should be.
Please don't.
This should be the Houston
please don't
Texans
make Christmas
tradition.
Day a tradition.
Please don't. It'll make me sad because I'll go back. I know me. I'm stupid. I will go back.
And at least maybe it'll be a road game next year if they make it a tradition.
Yeah, that would be nice. I hope that's the case. Rex Ryan, who wants to be the head coach of the New York Jets and thinks he's the best candidate for the job, was asked about Texans Chargers after finding out about the Saturday 3:30 Central Time matchup at NRG Stadium. Here is what he had to say about it.
Chargers wind up the 5 seed. They're going to Houston. What's your reaction?
Yeah, I mean, I never realized the Chargers got a bye. Did they qualify for a bye? But they did because they're playing Houston. This team right here, number 1 in the National Football League in scoring defense. And by the way, Quentin Johnson, he actually can catch the ball.
He was unreal.
He had 13 catches. Remember, this is the kid that couldn't catch a cold. Like, all of a sudden, now he's catching the ball. They're moving it. They can pound you with the run game. They also realize they have a Hall of Fame quarterback type.
Hall of Fame quarterback type, Justin Herbert.
Bye week? That feels harsh.
That's overstated.
That's harsh.
That's bombastic Rex Ryan, who also said he's the best man for the Jets job and said he's better than Ben Johnson with a straight face while saying he loves him.
I mean, you know what? Like, you got to think highly of yourself, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But a bye week? No. It's not a bye week.
The Texans are SMU against Penn State.
No.
That's what they're Indiana.
Yeah,
they're Indiana.
Yeah.
Man.
Actually, that's not a terrible comp.
Tim Hasselbeck, not to be confused with Matt Hasselbeck, but Tim Hasselbeck did play in the NFL at times, is also an ESPN analyst, like his brother Matt. This is what Tim had to say about the Chargers and their physicality.
Stroud has just been, they haven't protected him. They've done a good job keeping him upright. And when you look at the Chargers, you got a good defense, and they put pressure on the quarterback, and they'll hit you. And I think that's really what it will end up coming down to in that matchup. I just think when you look at what the expectations were for Houston, how they've played. They obviously rested guys today, but it just hasn't felt like the same momentum that you would think that they would be heading into the postseason with. And I think when you look at the Chargers, I think it's just going to be a physical brand of football that might be a little much for Houston.
Oh, physical brand of football that might be a little much. D'Amico Ryans slammed that on the bulletin board and slammed what Rex Ryan had to say on the bulletin board.
Yeah, he just called them softies.
He basically did.
Yeah, he just said they're soft and they can't handle it. Is he wrong?
This is getting me a little pissed from this perspective. Like, only I'm allowed to say this about the Texans, okay? Only I'm allowed to say this. No one on ESPN is watching the Texans. They're not. Although maybe they were forced to on Christmas.
I don't know. Yeah. I think they are maybe the most irrelevant playoff team we've seen in so long. I know The Athletic just doesn't care about the Houston Texans, so they don't employ a beat writer. But you go to ESPN.com, and unless it's a piece from DJ.
Joining us at 1 o'clock today.
ESPN.com, The Athletic, The Ringer. Like, there are no stories about the Texans and the first round playoff matchup. Like, there's nothing written about them. Like, they're just completely irrelevant.
Walking.
Yeah. They're just irrelevant to the playoffs, honestly.
I don't think this is the most irrelevant. Maybe the most irrelevant team in this year's playoffs.
This year's playoffs.
Yeah,
yes.
okay.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
I was going to say, other Texans team has been more.
No.
Brian Hoyer team was more irrelevant in the playoffs.
But what's strange about this is you're CJ Stroud. And people are just like, man, we're not going to write about him. We're not going to focus on him.
Are they as irrelevant as the Broncos?
Bo Nix is a good story. Like, people care about Bo Nix. Like, people are,
and I think
Steelers are also playing worse than the Texans of late.
Yeah.
For what it's worth. I mean, they're
That's fair.
similar. The Steelers have been pretty bad the last couple
But at least with the Steelers, like, people are like questioning Mike Tomlin now. We're like, no one's questioning D'Amico. No one's questioning CJ. They're all just like, yeah, they're there.
I also think some of it has to do with those teams are playing the Bills and Ravens. And we saw the Texans against the Ravens. If the Texans weren't playing the Chargers, I feel like it would be even more throw these teams out. Like if the Broncos or the Steelers were playing the Chargers, I feel like you would have more pundits being like, this is going to be a competitive game. No one knows who's going to win this game. Where this one, it's, dead man walking.